Mr. Smith, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number, please.
Good morning. How you doing? My name is Phillip Smith, 384287.
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a life sentence, having been sentenced in Jefferson Parish on June 27, 1997, to life for a second-degree murder conviction. Your parole eligibility date was September 2nd, 2020. Mr. Smith, is all that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Smith, your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson, seated to your left. Would you answer her questions?
Good morning.
Yes,
Good morning, Mr. Smith.
good morning.
How you
Good morning.
doing?
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about
I'm
yourself?
fine. I'm blessed.
Okay, well,
I'm
good.
blessed.
All right. Well, Mr. Smith, your case has been assigned to me, so I'll be talking to you about your situation. Are you currently 43 years and you've been incarcerated about 27 years on this crime?
Yes, ma'am.
How old were you when you committed the crime?
15.
How close were you to 16?
5 months.
So you've been incarcerated for 27 years. I've looked at your record. You've had some pretty good programs over your time. I noticed that you took Inside Out Dads and Malachi Dads. Surely at 15, you didn't have any children, did you?
No, ma'am.
What made you take those programs?
Well, by me being incarcerated at an early age, I really wanted to invest in understanding of real family-oriented environments so that I would be able to relate more to my family, because I understand the situation that I put my entire family in, as well as my victim's family. So I really wanted to just have a more spiritual understanding of the compromised position I put them in.
Let's talk about your life. At 15, were you in school at the time of this offense?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
What grade were you in?
I was in the 8th grade, John Eric.
Okay. Is that the grade you were supposed to be in?
No, ma'am, I had failed a few times. I failed the 1st grade. I believe I failed the 4th grade too, as well. And then I was placed in programs for behavior.
Okay. Well, tell me about your home life. Do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes, ma'am. I have 2 older sisters. They was living with my grandmother, and then after some years passed, they ended up moving in with us but mostly it was just me and my little brother and my baby sister living with my mother.
Okay.
My father, he was shot and killed the same year I was born, so it was pretty much just my mother.
Mm-hmm. And what did your mother do for a living?
For a while, she worked at Exxon gas station, and she put herself through a nursing school to where she began to do home help. And so mostly it would be like me at home watching my little brother, my little sister sometimes.
So how old were you when you started getting into trouble?
I probably started getting in trouble at like 13, 12.
What kind of
Fight
trouble?
at school, stuff like that.
Okay. Were you ever handled in juvenile court?
I caught one juvenile charge, but it was dismissed.
And what was that charge?
We stole a car, and everything was dismissed. One of my friends, the guy that I was on this charge with, Terry Havies,
Mhm.
all us, we broke into a woman house trying to steal a car.
Well, let me ask you this. It's been indicated that you were affiliated with the gang. Tell us
Yes.
about that. Tell us about that.
By the time I made 14, we had moved to Harvey. And they had a neighborhood gang. And by me getting in trouble at school a lot, I started hanging with a bunch of them. And during that time, my life was it was full of me making horrible decisions. And that was one of the horrible decisions I made, joining the gang. And it was also one of the most horrible decisions I ever made that led to me taking the life of Nathaniel McCoy Jr., being affiliated with them and just living a life that was in a downward spiral.
And how long had you been involved in that gang activity before this crime occurred?
Probably a year.
So tell us what happened. How did you end up taking this young man's life?
Me being in the gang, and all us lived in the same neighborhood. So I ended up selling him a pager. And Nathaniel McCoy Jr., we was friends.
You
And
knew him?
yeah, I knew him. We used to play basketball together and stuff. And me and him,
How old was he?
he was 17 at the time.
Okay,
And excuse me.
go ahead.
And so we end up having words and fussing and stuff. But to be honest with you, I knew I couldn't beat him or nothing fighting. So Terry Havies, he gave me a gun, and I ended up shooting Nathaniel McCoy Jr.
Well, the police reports indicate that you just walked up on him and you shot him in the head, and there had not been an altercation just immediately prior to the shooting, that you kind of came up on him out of the blue and shot him. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What'd you do after you shot him?
After I shot him, I gave Terry Havies the gun, and we ran off. I ran home. Terry Havies ran off with the gun. And later on that night, the police came by my mother's house to question us about the murder. Well, to question me about the murder.
Okay, what'd you tell them?
I told them that I didn't do it, that I was at home at the time, and I lied. I lied about it, and I told them that I didn't murder Nathaniel McCoy Jr.
Did you ever change your statement to the police?
No, I tried to. I continued to lie. I tried to live within the lie that I didn't shoot Nathaniel McCoy Jr. Everybody came up with a story that somebody else did it and stuff like that. But it was all a lie. It was all a lie. At that time, I was still young, and I tried to live within the lie that I had nothing to do with it.
So you've had almost 30 years to reflect on what happened. So how do you feel about what you did?
I feel extremely remorseful. As I sat in incarceration, I began to experience God at a different level. My father, he was shot
Before we get to that,
and
man,
killed.
how do you feel about,
Excuse me.
how do you feel about, I mean, have you kind of analyzed yourself and tried to figure out, what would make it easy for you to, take the life of somebody that you knew over something as insignificant as a pager? Why do you
Yes,
think,
ma'am.
why do you think that was your response?
That because my life, I was living a life in a downward spiral. I really didn't, as a child, I didn't really know that. I really did take in the fact that I would be destroying this young man's family. I didn't really take in the fact that I would be embarrassing my family, bringing shame upon my family. I didn't have the knowledge of the effect that a decision like that would tear an entire community apart. As a child, I never really took in any of those facts that came with making a horrible decision to do something like that.
Now,
If
go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
just like if I had a chance to really sit down and actually talk to the person I was today, I would really explain to him that decision making, the long-term effect of one decision and how it would hurt. A bad decision affects everybody. It affects the lives of the victim. It affects the lives of the victim's family. It affect me. Due to that one bad decision, I've spent almost 30 years of my life incarcerated. And that's 30 years that a family has to do without a family member. And I understand that now. And as a child, I didn't understand what 30 was. As children, we think 30 is a big old number, but I understand life at a different angle now. And I would never, ever do something like that to anybody's family, or if I ever had the opportunity to talk somebody out of doing something like that, I would.
Mr. Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
stop talking for a second, please. We're having a problem with the system. Just hold up for a second.
Okay. We had some technical issues. We couldn't hear everything that you were saying, but I was able to get the gist of most of what you were saying. Let's look at the programming you've done. You've done anger management, pre-release. We talked about Malachi dads and inside out dads. You've done JCs and AA. Were you using drugs or alcohol?
Smoking marijuana.
We can't hear you now.
Are you able to hear us now?
Okay. Were you using drugs and alcohol when you
Yes,
were with the gang?
Yes, ma'am. I was smoking marijuana.
Okay. And were you drinking any alcohol?
Not really, though, ma'am.
Did you use any drugs beside marijuana?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, but you did take AA, participated in the AA program, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did you do that?
Through the entirety of the course, I think it was like 12 steps, 12 weeks.
Okay, okay. Now, for someone who struggled in school, it appears that you were able to get your GED. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What year did you get your GED?
This year.
Wow, when did you start?
I had got back into the program this year and was able to receive my GED this year.
How long were you out of the program?
I believe like a little over 90 days.
Oh, okay. Why were you out of the program?
I had got that last write-up work offense.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that shortly, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
But you got your GED. Is that something you're proud of?
Yes, ma'am. I was able to become a tutor, and tutoring helped me. It helped me see things that I never really thought I would be able to see, like
What? Yeah.
some of the. Excuse me.
Like what?
Like some of the guys have struggles with certain areas of schooling and stuff, and it showed me to appreciate the patience that teachers put in helping students. And they have some of the younger guys, they catch on faster than the older guys, and it teach me that we have to invest in people. So like a lot of times during the weekend, I bring some of the schoolwork to the dome, and the older guys, I have them come to the dome and we'll go over some of the math or whatever they're struggling in the dome, because I realized that as people, we have to invest in people, you know.
Are you involved in any community service? I know you're a tutor, an academic tutor. Is there any other community service you render to the inmate population?
Yes, ma'am. With the church that I attend, Men of Faith, Men of Valley, a lot of times we'll go around and we'll spend time with the older guys that's in the medical domes, and we'll like either pray with them or do scripture reading to them, or sometimes we'll just sit there and play checkers with them and stuff like that. Just talk with them.
What program do you think meant the most to you? What did you get the most out of?
It would be AA.
And
AA,
what-
AA gave me a tool. They have a concept in AA that once an addict, always an addict. But the concept is that you can always reach out to people. You can always talk to people, because I learned that with myself, I had to be taught how to have a heart-to-heart conversation with a person. It's not something that just comes natural. And with learning that, it wasn't so much about the addiction, it was just about the availability of people. That if you're going through something, you can talk to somebody. There's always somebody, whether it's family or friends, there's always a support group somewhere. And if you trust that and be honest with that situation, things get better.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about your disciplinary record. You have had 43 write-ups over the last 27 years. You had 3 in 2021. Actually, you had in April of 2021, you had a write-up for contraband. What would you like to tell us about that?
That contraband was a cell phone. I allowed a friend to take pictures of me and send it to my mother, and the cell phone ended up getting busted, and I pled guilty to it. I did it. I accept full responsibility for it, and so
Well, help me understand exactly what happened in that incident.
a friend of mine, a person that I was affiliated with, he had a cell phone, and I asked.
Was he an inmate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
And I asked him to take some pictures of me and send it to my family.
You didn't actually have the cell phone,
Yes.
but
Yes,
You-
yes. I had it. I had it. It was for him, but I had it. It was in my possession,
How'd you
and
get it in your possession?
he gave it to me. He gave it to me. I asked him to use it. He gave it to me.
Oh.
I accept the responsibility for it.
Well, I appreciate your being honest about that. And then in May of 21, you got a Rule 28, and that resulted in a verbal reprimands. What was that about?
I had got they gave me a job change, and I
From
didn't get it
What
from
was
they gave me a job change from yard orderly to line 15A and 15B. And I'd never received the paper through the mail. But I could have took the initiative to go check to see whenever the job change process had went through, but I never received the paper in the mail, so I wasn't able to check out. And when they checked and seen that I hadn't got the paper, they just agreed to give me a verbal reprimand. But I should have took the initiative to just start going to check and see if I had got the job change or not.
All right, so it wasn't like you refused to do it, you just didn't know you had gotten a different assignment.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have two contrabands? No, you had two hearing dates on the same contraband.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Warden,
Ma'am.
what can you tell us about Mr. Smith?
Yeah, he's currently a Min C as far as his custody status. He attained that in July of this year. Prior to that, he had another Min C back in 2014 and kept that for 5 years until he lost it as a result of disciplinary. He has been doing some programming as well as in the last couple of months between August and September became a certified academic tutor, and now as of September he has become a registered academic tutor now, so he has been helping out in the last few months with that aspect of teaching the population.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith, I know that the parole project is involved in your case, and if you would be successful, your initial transition would be through the parole project. But tell us what your long-term transition plan would be.
Long term, I expect to if I was blessed this opportunity to receive mercy from the board, I would live with my wife and
Well, let's talk about that. Who's your wife and when did you get married?
my wife's name is Michelle Smith. We've been married 5 years now. We got married February the 8th.
And how did you meet her?
We grew up together. We
How did you get reacquainted with her?
well, we always been in contact with each other. Matter of fact, the first letter I ever got when I arrived in Angola in '97 was from her. We was writing in the parish, and we just always been in contact off and on. You know, Katrina came and we lost contact for a little while, but then we got back in contact with each other. She's just been one of those people that always supported me and always pushed me to try to become a better person and better in my decision making.
Where does she live?
She lived in Wagman, West Wego.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. And what does she do?
She's a she deals with home,
Oh,
what that stuff is, it's a mental health thing. She help people that have mental displacements or stuff like that.
so, your ultimate plan would be to move to where she lives?
Yes, ma'am. Live with her, and we also have a goal that we set. We wanted to do some team driving together, working together, driving 18-wheelers and stuff. And just
Have you participated in any vocational education programs where you could learn a job skill?
Well, I have a technical communication that's dealing with maintenance, like coaxial cables and wiring and stuff like that. But and right now I'm currently in IC3.
And what is that?
It deals with computers and computer programmers.
All right, Mrs. Renata, I think that's all I have.
Let me just ask you a question, please, Mr. O'Shea. I have a list in front of me, Mr. Smith. Were you expecting some folks there at Angola to be with you today?
My wife and my sister.
They're on Zoom, but I have a list. Do you have counsel for today? Did you expect anybody to represent you today?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. I was just checking. Mr. O'Shea?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning. How you doing, Mr. Roche?
Good, Mr. Smith. Tell me what the contraband was about in 2019.
2019.
You got sent to extended lockdown for a contraband write-up and a third inductment.
Just give me 1 second. '19. The staff had they had found some marijuana in a laundry cart. And me and another guy, we was up at that time, so they end up locking us up, placing us under investigation. And they said they had a confidential informant that said they seen me smoking a leafy-like substance, and they said that they seen him with a green leafy-like substance, so they sent me to extended lockdown.
For how long?
I want to say about probably 3, 6, about 9 months or something like that. 3 months, 6 months, 6 to 9 months, something like that.
Okay, so you were in extended lockdown until maybe late 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because that happened in August. And you had a hearing in December of 19,
Yes, sir.
but you were extended lockdown from 6 to 9 months.
I think so. Whatever the amount of time was with the programming, I think it's like 3 months on level 1 and 3 months on level 2 or something like that. I stayed the extent of the program.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll hear from your guests now. We'd like first to hear from your wife, Miss Michelle Smith.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I apologize. I'm so sorry, I'm trying to get this.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So my name is Michelle Smith, and I'm the wife and longtime friend of Phillip Smith. I have known him since he was the protective 12-year-old that attempted to defend me against my boyfriend when we were teenagers. Over the years, I have watched him be transformed from an angry young man to a smart, intelligent, and God-fearing man while incarcerated. Phillip has shared his desire to reach other youth that are headed down that dark familiar road as a way to pay it forward if he was ever released. He has also expressed continued remorse for his actions against the victim and his family. If Phillip is granted parole, he has the opportunity to connect to multiple programs to assist in his transition back into society. My employment as a case manager um, gives me access to to many programs, such as to many programs and mentors, such as Strive, Vote, which is Voices of the Experience, and a First 72 Plus, just to name a few. Because of my work in mental health, I am also able to connect Phillip with counseling services to help deal with any PTSD he may come home with. Phillip deserves a chance to prove that he can be a productive member of society. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Miss Diane Smith. We have Diane Smith. Yeah, she's here. There we go. Go ahead, Miss Smith.
Hello,
Yes, ma'am, we hear you.
I'm sorry. For some reason, it's not allowing me to video in.
It's okay. We hear you just fine. Go ahead. Tell us what you want us to know.
Okay. My name is Diane Smith. I'm Phillip's oldest sister. My brother was a kid when he committed this heinous crime. He was 15. He made a tragic mistake. His adult mind wasn't fully developed yet. He has been punished for 28 years. And in those 28 years, I feel like he's matured and has been rehabilitated and actually has grown. I do believe people learn from their mistakes, and in conversations with Phillip from the beginning until this day, I can see growth. I've heard him speak of how extremely sorry he is. He's furthered his education. He's become a teacher and he teaches other inmates. He's a mentor. He's always assisting people. He has turned his life to Christ. He preaches in church sometimes. He's missed so many major events in his life, in our life. We lost our mom in 2020 due to COVID. He was never able to tell her goodbye or grieve with the rest of the family. I do believe that he is a better person. I would not be here asking for him to be released if I wouldn't believe he was a better person. Like I said, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I truly believe in conversations we've had over the years that he is sorry for what he did. And I'm asking for a second chance for him. I'm actually a nursing home administrator. His wife is a case manager. I have a sister who owns a trucking company and does real estate. And so we would all be there to support him.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for sharing that information with us. From the Parole Project, Mr. Hunley, please.
Andrew Hundley with Louisiana Parole Project, appearing on behalf of Phillip Smith today to inform the board that Louisiana Parole Project has screened and accepted Phillip Smith for our residential reentry program. If Mr. Smith is granted parole, he would immediately be enrolled in our residential reentry program in Baton Rouge, where he would be assigned a peer mentor case manager who will work with him through our initial training period, where we'll work with him to develop life skills that are important for former juvenile lifers to participate in, such as technological skills, financial management, communication skills, interacting with law enforcement, just to name a few of the programs. He will also have access to our staff social worker, who will conduct a mental health and substance abuse evaluation upon arrival, and he will be expected to comply with any recommendations that are issued to him through that evaluation. And then he will have access to our employment enhancement program staff, who will work with him to pair him with employers in his community. I know that he obviously has strong family support, but Parole Project will be there to assist him and his family with those same issues. And our commitment to Phillip is 1 year of case management, but as all of our clients, once a client, always a client. He has problems 18 months, 24 months down the road, we're here to help him, whether that's with housing, employment, or any other issues that he may have. And I'm here to answer any other questions you may have about his reentry plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see no questions, so could we hear from the DA's office, please?
Good morning, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. I think Mr. Smith's on the right track. I like a number of his answers, but I still have some issues. The biggest issue is his disciplinary record. I missed as well. I had initially thought it was 3 write-ups in 2021, but that's 2 hearing dates. There's only been 2 write-ups in 2021. But it's real concerning, not only those 2, but in 2019, he had a write-up for the marijuana when he had stated that the program that he got the most out of was the AA, the 12 steps. And that was completed in 2014. So after completing that program that he thought did him well, he was back using marijuana. I think a long-term substance abuse treatment program would be beneficial for him to truly understand the addiction and how addiction controls people and what you need to do to recover from that, or to maintain your sobriety. So for the nature of the offense, the recent disciplinary reports, and the lack of particularly the substance abuse programming, we would be opposed to him at this point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Meyer. All right, then, Mr. Smith, is there a statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a statement you'd like to make to the panel before we vote?
Yes, ma'am. I would just like to assure the panel that, in all respect for what the district attorney office had to say, that right now, me today, I still seek counsel. I still seek help. I know that it's never too late to continue to ask for help. So I would willingly and actively join any program that I would have to join, or any program that's made available, not just having to join a program to be released to parole, but to join programs that will aid me in becoming a way better person than what I could have ever imagined, because I know I'm a way better person than what I was when I committed the crime. I know I'm not on that same path I was. I know I don't think as a 15-year-old right now today. And whatever can help me continue to be a better person, continue to make me a better family person, continue to make me a better friend, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to do it. I know now how to have a heart-to-heart and how to ask for help.
Okay, good, thank you. I think we're prepared to vote.
No, I think I like an executive session.
We have a motion for executive session and a second, and I concur. So a unanimous vote to convene an executive session to discuss confidential matters. Mr. Smith will be right back with you. Stand by. All right, we're back in regular session. It's 11:07. We are prepared to vote, and Mrs. Jackson will be voting first.
All right, Mr. Smith, I think you had a very good interview today. I certainly enjoyed talking to you. I think you displayed a lot of insight into what you did. And I think you have an appreciation of the harm that you caused to the victim and the victim's family. And I think that you are not the same 15-year-old who committed this crime, that you have matured. However, there are some concerns about the disciplinary write-ups that you got. The last one, you only got a reprimand, so obviously that wasn't something that was considered a really serious infraction. As far as cell phone is concerned, you knew that that was an infraction. But I appreciate the fact that you owned up to it and you acknowledged that you did in fact have it in your physical possession. But the most concerning one is the write-up in 19 for possession of marijuana. I think that does need to be addressed. However, I don't think that's enough to prevent me from believing that you are a good candidate for release once we address that issue. So my vote today would be to grant your parole upon completion of the Steve Foyle substance abuse treatment program. And then upon release from incarceration, you are to attend at least 2 AA meetings per week. You are to do 5 hours of community service work a week a month with at-risk kids. And so that would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. Mr. Ruscio.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Smith,
Yes, sir.
in evaluating parole for a juvenile lifer, I'm looking for maturity and rehabilitation. Based upon 4 disciplinary write-ups in the last 5 years, I don't see that maturity and I don't see that rehabilitation. So based on that, in law enforcement opposition from the DA's office, my vote is to deny your request.
Thank you, Mr. Ruscio. All right, Mr. Smith, I do think you had a good interview today. I agree with the DA's. He said he thinks you're on the right track, and I do too. So I concur with Mrs. Jackson. My vote today would be to grant your parole after you complete that substance abuse program. I think that's gonna help you out with the same special conditions that Mrs. Jackson stated to you. So you've received 2 favorable votes, 1 that was not favorable, but today your parole's been granted. So sit on the front row in the Steve Hall program.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Good luck.